So once again, Sylvester Stallone returns as your worst nightmare in its explosive action sequel, Rambo 3. Former soldier John Rambo is now living a solitary, peaceful life in Thailand when his ex-commanding officer, Colonel Trotman, comes to him with an offer to lead a top-secret mission into Afghanistan. However, Rambo decides that he doesn't want to fight someone else's war, let alone be defined by war itself. Yet when word arrives that Trotman has been captured by the invading Soviet Russians, Rambo is determined to rescue his friend, no matter what. Joining with the Afghani rebels, Rambo finds courageous and honorable allies to help him succeed in his immensely dangerous mission. Now Rambo must lead a full-on war against a ruthless Russian colonel and his powerful Soviet army in order to free his former commanding officer and possibly bring the hope for victory to these gallant people. So arriving in cinemas 3 years after Rambo First Blood Part 2, Rambo 3 was released on May 25th, 1988, on Memorial Day weekend in the US, and ultimately garnered a $189 million worldwide box office take off of a $62 million budget, which was not quite as successful as the previous film, this one costing more to produce, and bringing in over $100 million less than Rambo First Blood Part 2, which can maybe possibly be attributed to a particular change in the political climate, because, yeah, during production of the film, the Russians were actively invading Afghanistan, but 4 weeks before the film's released, the Russians pulled out of Afghanistan, ending the conflict that was depicted in the film, making the entire thing going on in the movie completely obsolete by the time it actually got released. So this was released sort of the beginning of the end of the Cold War, kind of making Russians not so much a hot commodity for movie action villains and everything. So it's just a case of really bad timing. If it came out a month, 2, 3 months before, might have done a different sort of box office, but who knows. And it's very interesting that the first 2 weeks of production were actually taken on by Russell Mulcahy, who had previously directed Highlander, but decided to depart the film because of creative differences for whatever reason. And so director Peter MacDonald actually came onto the film and completed the whole production afterwards. And so it's an interesting type of thing. Would have been, I'm not quite sure how Russell Mulcahy and Rambo film would have ultimately turned out, because it's a bit of a different style that he has than what the film ultimately depicts. But I do think that in many respects, Rambo 3 is a stronger action film than the previous sequel, while also not having quite as much to say for itself as the previous 2 films did, because both of them really had a lot to say about the character of John Rambo and the wider issues surrounding him in those films. Rambo 3 really does kind of it does start out with a lot of strong emotional core with the character, but as the thing goes along, it just becomes just a regular action movie and doesn't even have something like First Blood Part 2, which has sort of a bookend type of thing with the character that at the end of the film he has a whole lot of emotional things to say that really kind of shows a lot of the passion within the character and just it develops him further. Rambo 3 really doesn't develop the character of John Rambo too much. It really kind of just strengthens the ties between Rambo and Trotman to make the whole adventure in this film much more substantive and mean a whole lot more overall. But regardless, Sylvester Stallone still does a great performance as John Rambo in the film, still carrying on all the emotional threads and emotional core of the character, still staying true to who the roots of the character were. And it's very interesting at the beginning of the film that he is a guy just trying to live this peaceful sort of solitude life while still using his combat savvy and everything to earn a little money on the side with these pit fights. But it's still just this guy, just like he doesn't want to give in to what his true nature is, that Trotman really does address it in this film, that his nature is something that he can't run away from forever, that he has to come full circle at a certain point in time, that his nature is being a combat war soldier. And it really is that type of arc that doesn't quite get the attention that it deserves in this film, even though there was a deleted section of the end of the movie where Rambo decides at the end of the thing that he's just going to stop and go back with the people of Afghanistan, that he feels like he has a purpose or a home here with these people to probably continue on the fight, but for whatever reason they decided to cut that out at the end of the film and have a much more sort of this lightweight type of upbeat ending and whatnot. But Stallone's performance still holds true to the ideals of the character, that he is a guy that, even though he doesn't want to be in war, he doesn't want to fight a war just to fight a war, doesn't want to fight someone else's war, but once he finds out that things have gotten personal and his friend is in trouble and there's no other person that's going to go in there and try to save him, Rambo fights for loyalty, he fights for the people he cares about. Again, just like with the previous film, he fights for what he believes in and drives himself forward out of compassion, out of the heart, out of the camaraderie he has for Trotman, and later on how he bonds with the people of Afghanistan to really kind of understand who they are, what they're fighting for, and all these type of things. He really bonds with other characters in the film to fight loyally beside them with a lot of respect, and it's a really good maintained quality with the character that, like a lot of other franchises, you could really get to a point where you dilute the character a lot, where you keep pushing things over the top or whatnot, you kind of lose sight of the core of the character. Stallone's always maintained the core of the character, always maintained him consistently through each film up to this point and everything, and it's just interesting that you still get a little bit of a vulnerability with the character that I really like later on in the film, going into the third act, that again you see Rambo wounded, and you see this great scene where he's just taking this shard out of his side and he has to cauterize the wound in like the most painful way possible, man. But it's great just seeing that vulnerability again that you saw in the first film, where he is kind of wounded and he's not 100%, but he still fights through the pain and everything. So it's great to see those qualities, that he is that human character, that he isn't invincible, and those are great little things to add in there. Just one little bit adds something extra to the proceedings of the film, that it adds a little bit more danger, a little bit more peril. And I did think that in the beginning of the film, sort of the first act, that Stallone added a lot more emotional weight and gravitas to the character of Rambo, that you can see that there's a lot more weighing on this character at the beginning of the film. But there's also a lot more levity with the character in this film, that they kind of, especially when he rescues Trotman and everything, and they're kind of working off of each other. They have a little bit of quips here and there. There's a little bit more levity with the character, so a little bit more contrast, kind of making him a little bit more sort of a fun type of character in a certain way, that he's not so heavy, he's not so brooding and whatnot, but you can kind of go either way on that. And Richard Crenna's performance, again, is really damn good. I just thought the chemistry and rapport between him and Stallone is really, really good in this film. That, again, the beginning of the film, when they're having those conversations about the emotional things going on with Rambo there, that him trying to fight off his nature and Trotman saying you have to eventually come full circle and embrace what you are, really choked me up just a little bit. That there's a really good acting in that scene, and the emotional penetration of it all really is kind of soaked in very strongly with the performances between the two characters and the two great actors here. And I would have liked to see more of that at the end of the film or whatnot, but it's just it is a really good anchor for the beginning of the film that doesn't quite go anywhere. But Richard Crenna's performance is really solid in the film. I thought he just maintains in those torture scenes, once he's captured and everything, and he's really getting leaned on heavy by the Russians, he still maintains a really strong strength and resolve through the whole thing. He just never succumbs to anything. It's he's still a tough soldier in a certain way, that he's still a guy, he's not going to give in to things, that he's still as strong as he was in the previous two films, now in a much more perilous and frightening situation of sorts. And Crenna's performance is still great. He still has that great charisma, still has that great sharp wit and everything. I just liked he still maintains all these great qualities with the character, same as Stallone, and just it's a really bright spot in the film, just seeing him embody this character And of course, sadly, this would be his last performance in a Rambo film, because he would pass away in January of 2003, 5 years before the release of the fourth film. So great having him as part of this franchise. It was a fantastic character to have him in. It just added so much. I couldn't imagine this franchise without this character, or especially Crenna's performance as this character, adding so much heart and so much wit and everything to the character. Just such a great actor, and just a great character that he brought to marvelous, dimensional, and vibrant life with these films. And I really enjoyed the performance of Sasan Gabi, the guy who portrays the main Afghanistan soldier that Rambo connects with throughout the whole film. And I thought he just added a lot of funny, charismatic qualities to the character, and just showed a lot of passion for his people and their plight and everything, that you connect with this guy who just has a lot of good presence in the film, and just reflects a lot of the honorable qualities that the film represents in a very respectful type of way, with a lot of really quality actors too. That just, like, a couple of key people in the film just have some really good beats and moments in them that just shows a certain nice quality with these people. That, yeah, these days we have a lot of talk about terrorists in Afghanistan and everything, but at the time these were people fighting for their freedom, and a certain section of these people went off and joined the terrorists that we are trying to fight these days. But a lot of these people were just trying to fight an invading force, and just trying to be the kind of people that they want to be in a peaceful type of way. And I thought this film really captured and showed a lot of respect for that type of people. And overall, I just thought they were a really good cast. You get a little bit of Kurtwood Smith in this film, who a lot of genre fans know absolutely pleasantly from so many things like RoboCop. And you got the guy portraying the evil Russian colonel in this film, who is actually a French actor who does a very good job in this role. That, yeah, there isn't kind of that Rambo First Blood Part 2 thing where the characters are kind of a little bit kind of cartoonish or whatnot. They're just kind of really kind of amped up or whatnot. This feels a bit more grounded, a little bit more of a serious type of character that has a lot of threatening presence. That this actor really does a very strong performance in the film, and really sells the threat overall, that this is a very determined and ruthless type of guy. I thought Marc just did a very good performance in that type of way, and overall I thought the sort of more limited cast of this film did a very good job. That previous sequel had a very wider cast, and you had some very heavyweight talents in the first film, but I thought Rambo 3 still had a very solid cast of characters and actors to portray these characters, and add a lot of dimension and very strong depth to them overall. And I think just very well directed by Peter MacDonald, that everyone just put in very good performances, and he directed everything exquisitely well. That I think the main thing why I feel this is such a stronger film overall is probably a lot to do with his direction and the very excellent cinematography this film employs. I was really struck early on by some very beautiful vistas when they really have a good wide shot of things. There's some beautiful shots in this film that just adds so much to the quality overall. It adds to the atmosphere, adds to the mood. Some of the emotional weight early on just is enhanced by some of the cinematography choices they made. And later on, the film really kind of highlights a lot of mood with the lighting that it employs. There's a lot of very kind of painting with lighting, and using a lot of shadow and contrast to really kind of add an atmosphere to the film in very key sequences, especially when they're in kind of caves or whatnot, or when they're doing the initial sort of rescue mission for Troutman, where it's all under the cover of night and there's a few little shafts of light here and there. Or they use a lot of really good blue lighting in certain places. Just really adds so much to the atmosphere, the mood, the cinematography, everything that I felt that the previous film kind of lacked in a certain way. I thought the film was excellently shot in a lot of different ways, really kind of employing some very interesting dynamic camera moves at certain places and times, some good crane shots, a couple of good tracking shots, a lot of dolly type of stuff. I thought there was just a dynamic sense with how the compositions were, how they angled the camera sometimes. That just looks a lot more cinematic, looks like the budget is on screen with this film in a lot of different ways, that there's talent with very good cinematic visual eye for everything, that they really just add so much. Peter MacDonald and his director of photography just added a great visual strength to this film that I really enjoyed, after kind of being a little disappointed that the previous film didn't have as much visual punch as I would like from it. This one definitely delivers on that type of level, and of course the action of this film really is really damn good. I thought, again, it is all shot very well. I thought in certain places that the editing is tight, but in places I felt like maybe it was a little too tight. Some places I thought maybe have a shot go on a little longer, kind of let it run out a little longer, maybe just because the cinematography was so good and eye-catching that I'd like to have some shots just kind of soak in a little bit more. But overall, that's just a few little beats here and there. But in general, I thought the editing was really good. And one thing I was really happy about with this film is that it returned to having a lot more suspense with certain sequences that, again, with the initial attempt to rescue Trotman, everything's kind of building up really slowly, that everyone's kind of sneaking around and setting up explosives and trying to sneak into the whole base and everything, and so it builds things up. It gives a little bit more suspense, a little bit more tension here and there, and then just erupts into very explosive sequences, very thrilling sequences that this film just... Once you get into the really explosive action, man, it is so eye-catching that it just... big explosions that just look fantastic on screen. Just how they shoot everything just makes it look so damn good. I loved when this film just went into a wide shot. It just looked so spectacular to me. I thought all the action was just really well captured, and just how they execute what they do with the action is really satisfying. That, again, you got explosives, you got big explosions, you got a lot of gunplay and everything, but there's still a couple of hand-to-hand combat type of things, and just a lot of good suspense. I liked that with the film, that it just went back to that and just really added that kind of tight, sort of gripping type of atmosphere to the film, such as when they drop into the cave going into the third act and Rambo's there with the bow and arrow into the darkness and everything. I liked how he did that. I liked how Peter MacDonald and his cinematographer really captured that sequence so well that it is a beautiful cave to look at. There's some shots, they're just absolutely gorgeous to me. How they light it, how they frame the camera and everything, just really good, and just a really damn good sequence there too. And just whenever there's just big gun battles or big explosions or there's choppers coming and everything, it's just big action that still has a grit, still has sort of a grounded quality to it, that even though some things might seem like it's a little bit more amped up beyond reality, I still feel that the film has a little bit more of a grounded sense than the previous film had. Just really enjoyed that it just really executes some really damn good action sequences that I thought just had a lot more going on, a lot more vision, a lot more punch to them, just had a lot more going towards the satisfying spectacle end of things than I thought Rambo First Blood Part 2 really kind of was able to achieve overall. That Rambo 3 takes what Rambo First Blood Part 2 tried to do and added more of the elements that the first film originally employed, and just kind of meshed those things together into a much more tighter, leaner, sort of edgier type of package overall. I just really enjoyed what Peter MacDonald did with these action sequences, and just how Stallone just looks in these things. Just like each film, he must have just bulked on more muscle, because he looks bigger than he did in either of the previous two films, and it's just like he has to show it off. But it's also a little kind of interesting tidbit that they maintain all the scars on his body, on his face and everything, are still within continuity with the previous films. That every little injury he sustained, the little sort of scar that the Russian put on his face in the previous film is still there, that they maintain those little subtle things. I really like that. So really kind of nice attention to detail, and just overall, Stallone, this is the series of films that's when I saw these films, it's Stallone's a fucking action star, man. This sells me on everything, that this is his franchise of action films. And just I love these first three movies. I have not seen the fourth, but it just this sold me. This made is Stallone's my new favorite action star when I first saw these. And I was so happy when I saw the first three Rambo films. Just fuck yeah, man. Stallone's a great action star, and he just proves it time and time again in this franchise. And just he looks so much the part, because he just ripped and buffed to hell and everything. Just like, he looks awesome in this movie. Absolutely, just, oh man, I love these sequences. So many different dynamic action sequences. So many great things they're doing in them. I love the climax of this film where you've got Rambo in the tank and the Russian colonel in the gunship, and they're just charging at one another, and there's just head-on collision thing. Just like, that's fucking awesome, man. Just like, that's just great. I just love the hell out of that. It's just perfect. Again, it's like, it is still over the top, but it still has a grounded feel. It just feels gritty, man. I like gritty action. I just love that type of thing. Just like, really enjoyed the action in this film. And again, Jerry Goldsmith provides us with another great score for this franchise, and still brings along all the same themes he had before, but really kind of enjoyed it in a couple of the action sequences where he just kind of didn't use the same theme over and over again, that he just kind of did something different with the strings and whatnot, really kind of stir up a sort of thrilling, rousing quality with things. Just like, really enjoyed that. I love the theme for Rambo, just absolutely love it. But it's nice to kind of change it up, kind of use something a little bit different and not kind of rely on that too heavily. Really kind of use it a lot more like the first film did, where it just kind of used it where it was had the most impact. Really kind of enjoying this film where Goldsmith just used something a little bit different here and there, and just like, every Jerry Goldsmith score is a damn good score. You'll never get a complaint out of me for a Jerry Goldsmith score at all, because he's like top 5 favorite composers of all time, or alongside John Williams, Michael Kamen, and a few select others. Just like, really good stuff. And like, I'm really looking forward to seeing the 4th film, because apparently Brian Tyler, after Goldsmith had passed away, still used a lot of Goldsmith scores. Like, that's fantastic, because it wouldn't be a Rambo film without these themes, which I love so dearly. But it's good to see that Goldsmith still maintains something to change it up a little bit, not rely on so much. And just like, overall, really good score. And I think Rambo 3 is a really good action film, that it is extremely satisfying, that I like a lot of the action a lot more than I did in the second movie. I just thought everything was directed better. The cinematography was a lot more striking, a lot stronger, just had a lot more weight and punch, and just a lot more cinematic qualities that definitely, like I said, the budget for this film really kind of shows out more on screen, that they use a lot more dynamic stuff. And just like, story doesn't quite have as much meat on the bone. Like I said, it starts out strong and just kind of goes on into a regular sort of action rescue type of film, a little bit of vendetta at the end, and doesn't really kind of add anything more to the character at the end of the film, which really is the only lacking quality that I really hold any bit against this film, because the rest of it I thought was really damn good. I just enjoyed so much this film. I thought overall, just like, Peter MacDonald did a good job with this film, really rose to the task after kind of coming onto it in sort of late in the game in a certain way. But overall, Rambo 3 gets my stamp of approval. It might not have the over-the-top type of quality that the second film had, with a lot of the more vibrant, colorful type of characters, but if you want something that's a little bit more grounded, a little bit more gritty, but still has the big action spectacle, Rambo 3 will definitely do it for you, in my opinion. And be kind of a good double feature with the James Bond film The Living Daylights, because sort of the third act of the whole film, in sorts, kind of deals with Afghanistan and that type of conflict and everything between them and the Russians. So be nice, watch The Living Daylights first and watch Rambo 3, kind of get a nice thread through and everything. So, like The Living Daylights too, it's a really good movie, so go see that too. So overall, really enjoyed it. Love to hear what you guys thought of Rambo 3, and I definitely am very much looking forward to now seeing the 4th film, which I've never done before, but I will be getting my hands on the director's cut of the film, because a good friend of mine for a long time, who's a very big Stallone fan, said definitely check out the director's cut if you're seeing it for the first time. And I definitely plan to get that Blu-ray and checking that out and getting a review for you guys in some amount of time, whatnot. But we shall see what else comes in the future here. So definitely post your comments below about what you thought about Rambo 3, what you like about the Rambo franchise overall, and your thumbs up on the video is extremely well appreciated, along with everyone spreading the links around, getting more people interested in what I have to offer here. And trying to get a little bit more higher quality type of video with the film clips. I have obtained, as of the Escape from New York video, the ability to rip footage from Blu-rays. So you'll be getting a lot more higher quality type of stuff in the near future once I obtain the correct Blu-rays for those reviews. But be looking out for a review of The Guest very soon. I actually shot it before this video, but we're going to release it after because I kind of want to be timely with this, and I really wanted to get Rambo 3 out more than anything else. So, see you guys soon. I'll have some reviews more in due time, so we'll see what goes along with the rest of the summer with all the releases. And check out, like I said, the Escape from New York review or any of the First Blood or Rambo First Blood Part 2 reviews if you haven't caught them already. So, and if you want to contribute a little something to offset the costs that are piling up here, go check out the Patreon link below and see if you want to contribute a few bucks a month. And if that starts happening, you'll start getting exclusive previews and some unreleased stuff from the short films I have produced over the years. And we'll see what else comes along in due time. So thanks guys for checking things out and sticking with me. And hope you enjoyed the video. Thumbs up if you did. And see you guys around soon. So take care. Bye-bye.